Watch this.
Well, another legislative session is in the books, which means another Breakfast with Brad. Brad Little, our governor, who offered his thoughts on what did and didn't happen this year over some danishes and other fried dough.
I think it's been a big, let's just give people the runaround.
Empowering parents has left several parents feeling powerless. This far into the school year, and there's a lot of them who say they still haven't gotten their educational grant money yet. The vendor says otherwise.
You know, I really wasn't sure I would ever see this in my lifetime.
The United Methodist Church is trying to become less divided when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community. A groundbreaking decision to back up what Boise's Cathedral of the Rockies has been preaching for years. Okay, so you ever been to a fairgrounds like 2 days after the county fair closed down for the season and the carnival's gone, you look around at all the dry and worn out patches of grass and you wonder, what happened here? Well, like the carnies that just left town, the Idaho legislature wrapped up their session a few weeks ago, and every year after the dust settles, there's one person who's always left standing to answer the question, what happened here? It's Governor Brad Little. He still keeps showing up to the Capitol every day for work, regardless whether the legislature's there or not. Joe Paris, well, you were there this morning with Governor Brad Little. Joining me now. So, Joe, there was a lot covered this legislative session, but there was one glaring topic that wasn't, clarifying Idaho's abortion laws.
And this has been in the national spotlight, Brian. Yes, the Idaho lawmakers, they did not pass any abortion clarification laws this past session. And I asked Governor Little about the laws in Idaho's day at the Supreme Court recently. And to Governor Little, clarity is tough on the topic. It's hitting a moving target, so to speak. Doctors continue to leave Idaho. Some say, clearly, it's because of abortion laws.
Logically, it makes sense to me that there's probably that's part of the problem. And, you know, women's health, as this goes forward, whether it's our maternal review, whether it's what we're doing in foster care, it's whether what we're doing in all those areas, we want to, and we do not need with the least amount of doctors per capita of any state, we don't need excuses for doctors to leave the state, but we need to get this case settled and then we can go forward. So.
Do you think the abortion law is clear as is?
Well, I think depending upon what happens in all these court challenges, then the legislature will have better guidance about what they need to do to address the ramifications of it.
We'll hear more about that in the coming months. But something that did not get done, again, this past session, school vouchers. Basically, state dollars to help families pay for education. And for the first time, I got to ask Governor Little about his thoughts on the non-action and mindset moving forward.
It needs to be transparent and needs to be accountable, just like what we were talking about. And some of the proposed language that hasn't got to me looked to me like it would reduce transparency and accountability. I think you need to look at all the options and say, what are we trying to fix?
The governor went on to say that Idaho is a nation leader in terms of school choice. Also, for the first time today, since the dust has settled, Governor Little gave his thoughts on allowing the ITD budget to become law without his signature. And that budget included language that ended the sale of the State Street campus to a private group.
There's only one other bill that I let become law without my signature, and that was last year or year before last. And so I'm reluctant to do that.
But he did do it with the ITD budget, a budget that killed the sale of the ITD campus. Little says he had other concerns that were in play, critical budget items not worth risking.
A veto, given might have jeopardized two of the big things I talked about in my State of the State, which was local roads and bridges and safety enhancements. So it was a calculated risk.
A risk that is now followed by a lawsuit filed late Wednesday. The group that thought they had a done deal on the ITD campus filed this with the Idaho Supreme Court, a matter that will be expedited. Little and other state leaders will now have to respond in the legal arena, and oral arguments may be set at the court's discretion. Still, Governor Little is far from endorsing the practice of undoing a deal.
When you say you're going to sell something and everybody gets together in a good faith effort and decides, so that's why I got to the point that I said, I'll send him a little note and let it become law without my signature, but I didn't do it until the very end. We'll see what happens over the next year, 2 years, but addressing those bridges was critical. So I let it become law without my signature because a veto might have been a little risky.
And as our Andrew Bartline has reported this week, and I touched on it last week, there is a lawsuit now in the state Supreme Court from the prospective buyers there. But Brian, it's an interesting sense of what could happen in the future. Something else I did want to add real quickly, the governor was asked if the University of Idaho, University of Phoenix deal was still alive. His tongue-in-cheek answer was maybe on a strong IV.
Oh, so a glimmer of hope for that one. What was for breakfast, by the way?
There wasn't bacon, which is crazy because the governor says he won't come to these events if there's no bacon. So he actually opened apologizing for no bacon. So.
Isn't that room something to do with Snake River Farms in there, too?
I don't know.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, this doesn't change anything for us at the Cathedral of the Rockies, except we no longer have to feel like we have an asterisk when we talk about our denomination.
That denomination is the United Methodist Church, a Protestant religion, second only to Southern Baptists when it comes to size, somewhere around 7 million in the United States. And that was before the church split over the stance taken in 2019 during their last general conference. They voted down allowing LGBTQ plus clergy or even same-sex marriage. So over the next 4 years, between 2019 and 2023, about 7,600 congregations, nearly 1 of 4, split off to become the Global Methodists. Those that remained, well, they're in the middle of their first general conference since that separation. Yesterday, 93% voted to go the other direction and remove a ban on, quote, self-avowed practicing homosexuals, end quote, first instituted in 1984. All means all has been the calling card of Boise's United Methodist Church, the Cathedral of the Rockies, well, since that building was built in 1960. But they've had to approach that mantra kind of delicately over the years. According to Pastor Dwayne Anders, the leader of the Cathedral of the Rockies, the largest Methodist congregation in the West, by the way, that wasn't all yesterday's vote did.
It also took away the language that said, we find homosexuality incompatible with the teachings of Christ. That's now gone.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
The affirmative has it, and the motion is adopted. Please hold our excitement.
The surprising thing of the General Conference vote was there was no debate, maybe because you might say, we've been debating it for 40 years. And so it passed overwhelmingly yesterday without debate.
And the reason it's an important day is because we've now taken the steps to try and do what we should have done decades ago, which is make sure that what we said we stood for, we now practice.
What does that mean for Cathedral of the Rockies?
The great news for us as Cathedral of the Rockies is I no longer have to say we're United Methodist, where all means all, and then say, you know, but if you move to other parts of the country or other parts of even our community, you may find a different stance because our official book of discipline says you're not welcome. And so now finally, I would say the Methodists have aligned their heart and head to say, all people matter to God, regardless of sexuality. You can be clergy, you can be married, you can be in our church, you can be a leader.
How do you think something like this is going to go over, considering the political climate that we're in right now?
Sure. I think change is often hard for all of us. And so this can feel like, for some people, aren't you changing 2,000 years of Christian history? I would actually say, we're actually living into 2,000 years of Jesus' teaching, where Jesus welcomed all. God created earth and heaven. God created day and night. Did not God create everything in between?
A change doesn't mandate LGBTQ plus clergy. It doesn't mean you have to have them in your church, nor will it likely apply to churches outside the U.S. But it will take effect tomorrow at the conclusion of the conference. The Cathedral of the Rockies has been pretty progressive over the years, way before this official acceptance of the all means all mantra. In fact, tonight they're having a presentation and discussion by the author of the book, Raising Kids Beyond the Binary, celebrating God's transgender and gender diverse children, as told by a Christian mom who shares her experience raising a transgender child. That event starts tonight at 7, is open to any members of the LGBTQ plus community, as well as any allies that want to attend. A program that was supposed to ease the burden on low-income families is coming up a bit short, at least for some who say empowering parents is leaving them in the lurch. The Idaho State Legislature created the Empowering Parents Grant in 2022. It offers families up to $1,000 per kid to pay for educational materials, things like books, computers, tutors, transportation, that kind of stuff. Each family is capped at $3,000, and the program prioritizes funding based on income. As with most new rollouts, there are usually some wrinkles that need to be ironed out. But some people who say they were some of the first in line for this year are still waiting, still waiting for those funds from last fall. As Andrew Bartline found out, some are wondering if they will ever see a dime.
In a state that ranks near the top of the nation for choice in education.
My kids are homeschooled through Tech Prep Academy.
More options.
I first learned about it through them.
Are normally welcome.
Yeah.
By Amy Newbold.
It's worse.
Just not this one.
I signed up to get a notification when the next grant enrollment time opened. I don't even know what to call this mess. It's just a disaster.
In 2022, the Idaho State Legislature touted the Empowering Parents Grant as a win for families. People most struggling to make ends meet could receive $1,000 per kid to supplement their educational needs. Amy's family was supposed to be near the front of the line.
And I waited and waited and waited to be verified and approved and all this stuff. And I never saw the funding.
When were you supposed to get those funds?
Before Christmas. I think it was supposed to be sometime in November.
That's half a year ago.
Yeah.
Amy's worked to get in touch with the vendor, Odyssey.
Hello, is anyone around?
And she learned about a problem with her application.
And it randomly said duplicate.
But she had to figure that out on her own.
And obviously they're not going to fund me twice. Please communicate. But instead they just left it in this abyss. And there was a woman under my comment was like, same thing happened to me. And I'm like, what?
Odyssey wrote KTVB in an email, quote, Odyssey has fully funded everyone that is verified in Wave 1 and Wave 2. We can confirm there are just 2 invoices from this group that are currently in the process of funding because Odyssey is waiting on the state to verify them and sign off on the funds as is required. Do you think you're one of the 2?
I'm very curious. I'm like, maybe it's me and that girl.
But unlikely, because Amy met that woman on this Facebook page, showing several families in Wave 1 and 2 with no access to the dollars.
We're putting in all this legwork, right, to contact and then having to navigate the portal or whatever that is, and there's all this price gouging. It's
price gouging. What do you mean by that?
Okay, I was looking to see if I could maybe use up my old funds because I think I had $20 or something. A set of Crayola crayons, 12 crayons that you could get on Amazon for maybe $2.98. It was $14.97 with this vendor.
It's a price tag she'd rather not pay.
At what cost do we want this help?
With a check she's unsure that'll ever cash.
Not at this point, no. I don't really have any faith that I will see that funding.
Amy got in touch with a contact at Odyssey. She says about 2 weeks ago, she says her application had to be done over again because of that duplication, while she was told they would move her to the front of the line because she's supposed to be in Wave 1 based on her income. Still has not gotten those funds. Odyssey says they're looking into this, Brian. There could be some form of a miscommunication, but we know that third round of funding starts on the 15th.
Okay.
And the funds eventually run out. It's only what the legislature's appropriated.
Okay.
So if you're supposed to be in that first wave, you don't actually get back to the front of the line, there's a chance that you don't get those funds at all if they run out.
Okay, so the vendor's checking into it. What point do we get to the legislature? I guess obviously not until they get back in session, but at some point it becomes a legislative issue, does it not?
It would be them wanting to hold the vendor accountable,
right.
or I guess in this case, it's the group contract and then there's vendors under them. It's unclear exactly, but they are aware of that Facebook group, so they can cross-reference those names and understand what those cases are. But
all right,
we'll see if she gets an answer.
Yeah, we'll keep track of that. All right, thanks, Andrew. It has been a brutal 10 months for the family of a Boise woman who drove off by herself last summer and never returned. Finally, some closure after the remains of Gwen Brunell were found in Oregon nearly a year after she went missing. Aspen Shumpert has more details on that in today's 411.
At the end of that dinner, did you believe that Lori had a daughter who had died?
Yes.
Chad Daybell's mother, Sheila, took the stand today in day 15 of Chad Daybell's triple murder trial. He's accused of murdering and conspiring to murder Tammy, as well as his current wife, Lori Vallow Daybell's children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. Sheila said the first time she met Lori, she asked if she had kids. Lori only mentioned a daughter. Heather Daybell, Chad's sister-in-law, also took the stand, saying her relationship with Chad changed as he got more involved with the end of times, and that it felt scripted when she found out about Tammy's death. Court picks back up tomorrow. The Malheur County Sheriff's Office says the remains of Gwen Brunell were found last month. She went missing in Oregon on June 27th of last year after setting out on a solo trip to California. Deputies suspended their search on July 10th after multiple attempts. Then the family hired a private drone company to videotape the area she was last seen. A nonprofit reviewed the video and found what was later confirmed as Gwen's remains. The parents said there will be a memorial service in Boise in the coming weeks. Happy 100th birthday to the creators of the moon. 100 years ago today, President Calvin Coolidge issued a proclamation establishing the Craters of the Moon National Monument. In 1924, it was about 54,000 acres. Today, it's about 4 times that size. Its unique volcanic features include fissure sites, which likely erupted between 2 and 15,000 years ago. Governor Brad Little proclaimed today as Craters of the Moon Centennial Day. The national park is celebrating its centennial from May through September this year. You have until midnight tonight to be part of Idaho's largest online giving campaign. Idaho Gives helps hundreds of nonprofits in our communities. Go to idahogives.org to find a complete list of the nonprofits and to donate. Tickets for the St. Jude Dream Home in Meridian are officially sold out. You helped us sell more than 30,000 tickets, raising $3,077,700 for the children of St. Jude. That's officially the largest Dream Home campaign ever anywhere in the country. Thank you for your help. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Aspen Shumpert.
I wish I could say that today's view is just as pretty as what we just saw. However, looking pretty gray across the region, even some snow in some areas, including eastern Oregon. In Treasure Valley, spots mainly staying dry. However, you can see some of those showers in the distance in the mountains. And again, that snow level right around 4,500 feet or so. So we are seeing snow at those higher elevations once again. More so soggy is Twin Falls. The temperature right now 44 degrees, and we've been seeing some really consistent showers over the region, still on the light side, but very consistent. At last check, it was about 0.05 inches of rain in our normal summertime healthy thunderstorm would be about 1/3 of an inch. So we're looking at much less than that, but those showers are expected to continue as we have a big low pressure center continuing to feed those showers in along the same path. For those high temperatures today, falling a little bit short of what was expected, 54 degrees in Boise for the high temperature, 40s in the mountains, and close to that 50-degree mark over in the Magic Valley. We are expecting some changes as we go throughout the next 24 hours. However, one similar theme is that we'll have another frosty morning. However, it is expected to affect fewer areas compared to what we saw this morning. So Mountain Home and east of that is where we're seeing some possible frosty conditions, which hopefully won't be hurting the plants too much, but it is possible. And as we go to tomorrow, more of the sunshine, more clouds will be present in mountain areas. And then we're expecting warmer afternoon temperatures as well. So for valleys, that means we'll be in the upper 60s, mountain areas in the lower 50s to mid 50s, depending on where you are. However, the sunshine and the warmer temperatures will be short-lived because we will see some big changes over the weekend. So on Saturday, we'll start off on the drier side, and then rain starts to move in across the area, and the temperatures will be so warm. We are expecting rain at all elevations initially, and then the rain will pick up as we go into the overnight hours of Saturday. You can see getting heavier at times, continuing in the overnight hours till Sunday, and you can see more of that snow starting to pop up at that time as cooler air starts to work its way in. And again, the rain is not the whole story because cooler temperatures will be coming along with that system, setting the stage for a big cool down on Sunday. Big difference from Saturday's temperatures to Sunday's temperatures. You can see that big drop right there. And those 50s will be sticking around, so will the unsettled conditions for a while before we start to see things warm back up.
We always enjoy getting your text messages sent to us during the show, but there are other ways that you can contact the 208 through your email. You can do it by phone. Here are those ways. On social media, Facebook, Instagram, of course, also on Twitter or X, whichever you want to call it. We have a YouTube channel as well where you can catch any episode of the show that you missed at any time. It's our YouTube channel there. But if you want to email us, it's at the 208 at ktvb.com. We also take phone calls to the same number you text, 208-321-5614. So there are several ways to get in touch with us and further the conversation. Let's get to some comments that we got during today's show. Richard in Meridian, he asked the questions. Little said Idaho's first in the nation in school's choice. What was he saying when he said this? Well, Idaho already has an open enrollment, basically, that if you want to go to a school in Canyon County, you live in Ada County, you can certainly do that if they have room for you. There is school choice in Idaho, and it's pretty wide open. So that's kind of what he's referring to, I understand. What's the difference between Brad Little signing the bill or not signing it if either action passes? Well, he can not sign it if he doesn't agree with it. By rule, 5 days it goes into law. That's how it works. That's how they set it up. We'll see you tomorrow.